made, so you bagged him.
Over the past few years, TikTok has transformed from being an app for doing funny dances to catchy songs to a platform where creators of every background share insights into their lives, including their perspectives on culture, economics, and of course, politics, frequently challenging prevailing narratives presented by the mainstream media.
I expressed my view that I wish Joe Biden would retire and we could have a real primary. A primary where we're debating about our future instead of the mental fitness of our president.
Of course, this has drawn the ire of many, including the rest of Silicon Valley, the mainstream media, and the US government. In April of 2022, Forbes reported TikTok the most popular social media app of the year so far. Perhaps not coincidentally, at around the same time, it came out in the Washington Post that Facebook paid a GOP firm to malign TikTok, boosting messages to frame TikTok as a threat to American children. The Post suggested that Facebook, facing its own regulatory challenges and declining user base, needed to frame TikTok as the real threat in a cynical ploy to, quote, win back young users.
Concerns about the spread of misinformation on TikTok.
Viral vaccine misinformation is infecting social media. This time it's on TikTok.
Over the past few years, mainstream media has amplified the narrative that TikTok is a breeding ground for misinformation and disinformation.
Could be health misinformation, it could be conspiracy theories, it could be political misinformation.
Misinformation about the Ukraine-Russia war, misinformation about the Israeli bombardment of Gaza. A recent New York Times article even suggested that the public's negative views of the economy was more influenced by content on TikTok rather than stemming directly from the economic policies of the Biden administration. Politicians, citing national security concerns and concerns about data privacy, have conducted public hearings on TikTok.
You damn well know that you cannot protect the data and security of this committee or the 150 million users of your app, because it is an extension of the CCP.
I don't believe that TikTok has, that you have said or done anything to convince us that information, the personal information of 150 million Americans, that the Chinese government is not going to give that up.
They've also introduced numerous resolutions to ban the app altogether from the US, although so far no legislation has passed. More recently, since the October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel, TikTok has faced significant criticism for platforming content that has been accused of fueling anti-Semitism.
We really do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day, they become 17% more anti-Semitic.
Whether or not that's actually true is very much under dispute and still widely debated. Same goes for the app's perceived national security and data privacy concerns, as TikTok's Project Texas actually hands the American operations of TikTok, its code, its software, its data to Oracle, the US-based tech giant. A tech giant that has historically a very strong tie with a certain high-profile intelligence agency, I might add. The details around the project are still pretty opaque, but the change in content moderation standards and algorithmic suppression of certain topics have reportedly been felt by creators, which has inspired many of them to invent new language and new ways to communicate with their audience, most recently in attempts to skirt pro-Palestine censorship on the app. Interestingly enough, TikTok consumers have also gotten in the action by using quite clever ways to boost videos without activating TikTok's tripwire, namely by crafting their comments as if they were responding to videos of restaurant reviews or tourist attractions. It's pretty ingenious, I gotta say, but like many other things that we just covered, the effect at this point is unclear. What is clear is that although TikTok, per their terms and conditions, strictly prohibits any form of political advertising, the creators on the platform will inevitably play a significant role in influencing the outcome of the 2024 presidential election, some of whom have voiced cutting critiques of the current administration.
He ignored every one of the most pressing, the most vital needs that we have. There comes a time when you have to consider the possibility of, or at least consider having a conversation about, breaking the entire system, burning it down.
Very radical thinking, I have to say. And joining us today to offer more of her perspective about TikTok and everything that is going on in culture, economics, politics is friend of the show Heather Orr, who goes by Hope Peddler on TikTok. She is a lawyer by trade and co-founder of Revolution TV, a community of content creators with millions of combined followers with a stated goal of coming together to work toward a better society. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we all know how powerful it is to give megaphones to everyone, the ability to elevate voices and ideas outside of what has been endorsed by mainstream media. Why is that so important to you?
I think the decentralization of information is quite possibly the thing that is going to most lead to the revolution. You saw it with the Trump election. You saw it with Me Too. You saw it with BLM, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. And it's reaching this crescendo now with everything that is going on with Palestine. But it has been building this entire time. And this entire time, you've had this place where people could go where information was decentralized, which is TikTok. And not to overstate the importance or value of TikTok, but you'd be hard pressed to find a user of TikTok that says that their worldview hasn't been fundamentally changed by their participation with that app. You know, in all honesty, like most people have come away with from their experience with TikTok with like a new set of ideas that they didn't have before, deconstructed bad ideas that they did have before. It's been life-changing for a lot of people. And so I think it's timely. And I think that, you know, for the vast majority of human history, if not all of human history, the dissemination of information has been incredibly centralized, and it's been controlled by those who stand to benefit from controlling the narrative. And now there are a lot of people, millions, hundreds probably of millions, who rely on independent civilian journalists over mainstream media. And that is radical. That is not something I think anybody could have foreseen 5 years ago.
Yeah, you used the word radical and revolution several times, which brings me kind of to the next question is, there's obviously risks to giving everyone a platform, as we're oftentimes reminded by the mainstream media. So I was wondering what your thoughts are about misinformation, conspiracy theories spreading on TikTok, and what do you think your role as a content creator is in all of that?
It is inevitable there will be misinformation on any type of decentralized information sharing platform. And what I have noticed about TikTok that I didn't think was necessarily true with earlier apps like Facebook is that there seems to be a level of accountability on the app. There seems, and it's not perfect, but there seems like if one of these civilian journalists gets it wrong, they are almost always told how and why they get it wrong. And so I think that it's kind of a problem that to some degree solves itself. And it solves itself in a way that, like, you know, mainstream media can't. Because with mainstream media, like there are letters from lawyers that say, hey, you got that thing wrong. I need you to issue a retraction. But really, there's not a lot of power there to require, So there's not a healthier or better mechanism to hold mainstream media accountable than, these journalists. And I actually think that there's a more robust fact-checking sector of TikTok than there has been of any other app.
I think you're right about the accountability aspect. So I have to ask you about Israel-Palestine. What's been your experience with hate speech, anti-Semitic content on the app, both as a creator of the content and as a consumer of that content as well?
I genuinely, maybe it's the side of TikTok that I am on, I have not come across a lot of anti-Semitic content. I know that it's out there. It's just not being shown to me. That's the way that the algorithm works. I make a lot of pro-Palestine content, and in my comment sections, I could probably list on two hands the number of anti-Semitic comments out of, I think I've made 60 videos or more at this point. I have seen more people, rightly, I think, worried about the conflation of Zionism and Judaism with regard to anti-Semitism, because that conflation creates a bigger risk of anti-Semitism. We should not be telling the world that you have to believe in a fascist ethno-state in order to not be anti-Semitic, and that's the same thing as being Jewish. There are plenty of Jewish people that obviously are supporting Palestine.
Yeah, and it also depends, I think, a lot on what your definition of anti-Semitism is.
Yeah, and I think that is a moving target right now that we are contending with on an international scale, right? There are really important conversations being had to define those bounds, and there's a lot of dissension about where to draw those lines of what constitutes anti-Semitism or what doesn't.
Yeah, speaking of the international arena, Congress has brought up TikTok's ties to China many times, citing national security, data privacy concerns, and have made multiple attempts to ban the app in the last couple of years. Do you think they're actually serious about this? Do you share in their concerns, or is it something more cynical?
I do not share in their concerns. I think it's very, very obvious that the people who came into power by virtue of an existing system with centralized information are the very people who are most threatened by definition. You know, the people who are winning under the rules of the current game are going to be the very people that are not going to want to change the rules of the game. And the new rules are decentralized information sharing. Therefore, everybody in power, I expected them to have a very strong negative reaction to TikTok as soon as they realized what it was capable of. I was hoping they were slow to figure out what it was capable of, and they were. Had they jumped on this 2 years prior, I think they might have got it done. Now, as far as data privacy and sharing, well, like our biggest violators of like our privacy interests, have been Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Like every single United States owned entity is and has been selling our data to the highest bidders, including anyone in China. And that has been the case. That has always been the case. And so this idea that because the principal owners of TikTok happen to be Chinese, that somehow that is evidence in and of itself that our data is being shared with the Chinese government is rather preposterous. That the Chinese government wanted to buy our data, it is already up for sale.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that. And I do agree with you on your point that TikTok does have a huge ability to shift discourse. And earlier on, I played a short clip of yours, critique of the Biden administration. You mentioned the possibility of burning it all down. So with the 2024 election actually right around the corner, Iowa caucus, if you can believe, is literally just a few weeks away. What do you think the perspectives are of young voters, and what do you foresee as a role of TikTok in political campaigning and grassroots activism?
The best thing about what TikTok is capable of is its fluidity and its responsiveness. So when it comes to political organizing, we can change direction on a dime. We can get everybody to participate in a boycott in 48 hours of viral content. You know, it is a natural response right now for people to threaten not to vote for Biden. It is a natural response for people to want to burn it all down. I think those are healthy discussions. And I have been pushing back against the people who are demanding that we say, vote blue no matter who now. I think it is premature. I think that when you have 20,000 lives lost in 2 months, you do whatever you can, including taking a small calculated political risk. And it is rather small when it is a year out from the election. Now, can he actually win? I don't think so. I think he's lost Michigan, which is a crucial swing state, and I think he's lost Gen Z. And I don't think that he can win without Gen Z. I don't think they're going to come back around.
Well, I think a lot can happen in the course of the year. We'll see how things shake out. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell the audience about Revolution TV. What are you guys hoping to achieve, and where can people find more information about you guys?
So Revolution TV, it's kind of twofold, right? We are trying to shine a light on revolutionary actions that are happening and join that conversation. And we were trying to participate in it ourselves. And so we have basically come to the consensus, and I think this is a general consensus that's happening far outside of our group right now, that is starting to permeate general consciousness, which is that the most crucial step to enacting lasting change is mutual aid and organizing, community organizing. And so it's also the thing that we're all missing. like the lack of community is also the hole that we're all filling with consumerism. That we participate in this economy and we buy things because of everything that we're actually lacking, which is really just community. So that's our big focus, and we want to just facilitate the conversation. We want to highlight people who are doing really good work. We want to promote the content of people that are doing really good work. And other than that, like, we are going to let the organization, it's still fairly new, we're going to let it develop organically in response to the needs of our community.
Well, everybody go check out Revolution TV. Heather, thank you so much for your insights today. Appreciate you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's it for me this week. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. For more of my content, I highly encourage you to check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel, 5149 with James Lee. That would mean a lot. Of course, keep on tuning into Breaking Points, and as always, thank you for your time today, and I'll see you in the next one.